Okay, let's talk about distortion, specifically how I go about sound designing using distortion. My top favorite distortion that I use pretty much on every track in recent years is Decapitator. This thing's a beast. It's part analog emulation of a unit called the Thermionic Culture Vulture. I've used this on tracks with Motown, who've actually got the physical hardware version of this. But when I do it on my tracks, or when that unit isn't available because they're busy, I will defer to this, and it sounds amazing, to be honest. We've tested them side by side. There's really not much between them. So how do I go about sound designing with this? I keep this really, really simple to start with. I will always grab a sub and kind of push it through, going for that kind of Dillinger approach where it's really just pushing subs harder than they should go and squaring them off into square waves. But I add a little bit of special sauce, which is not that special, it's just noise. So you can see here I've got a noise oscillator coming out of operator and a sub, just a sine. And those, when routed into Decapitator, they sound like this. Nice thing about Decapitator is that it's got this punish button, which is a huge dB boost on the in, so you're going to end up with completely crushed sounds. And yeah, I pretty much abuse this a lot on all of my sounds to give them texture, to make them feel bigger than they actually are, because distortion just makes things sound, it tricks your ear into thinking that stuff is louder, which is a really useful tool. When I go about sound designing, I'll feed it the sub, feed it some noise, and I will just start automating. So let's create a loop and record in just something really simple, just a bass, one note. And for the sake of time and sanity, let's extend that for the entirety of this. Sure, there's a shortcut for that, but this is how I've always done it. Cool, so we've got this sub note. I'm actually going to change the tempo to whatever I'm feeling at the moment, 130. This is not that important unless I'm doing time sync stuff or automation. I'm going to do a little bit of that in this example. So we've got the note down. We can turn off, we don't have to arm that, but we can turn off our keyboard. So I'll turn on overdub, MIDI overdub, this little plus button, and that means that whenever I hit record, even when I've got the track unarmed, it's going to add to that MIDI clip rather than replace it. Really important, because we're going to be recording automation, one knob per round, and basically adding all these kind of different elements of movement. So now we just have fun with it, basically hit record, mess around with the drive, maybe some other stuff, and then repeat that process. Okay, that should be recorded. There we go. You can see all of our drive movements have been recorded. If we play that back, see the knob moves. Great. So let's overdub on top of that, and let's mess around with the tone knob. Cool. I just want to see what this does. Yeah, I really want to keep those highs in there, so I'm just going to turn that up without recording because I want to keep them all there, using the tone to kind of change the characteristics of those highs. And you can use the low cut to remove some of that thumpy kind of boxiness, which is quite handy sometimes. Next, rather than recording over the top again, I'm going to mess around with the different algorithms. So you've got these 5 buttons down here, labeled style. These are different emulations, and they give you slightly different tonal characteristics. I'm liking that one a lot. Okay, I'll keep it there. And the next step is to record this. So I'll create a new channel. Gonna rename it to Decapitator bass modulations. We'll change this to, you can change it to resample, or you can change it to the actual channel, so to receive Decapitator. Yeah, really up to you. Just something to note that if you're going to use resampling, it's going to resample, it's going to record onto that track whatever is playing. So if you've got multiple things on different tracks overlapping and they're playing, it will record them. You can just solo the channel to get around that. Remember to arm it, and then, yeah, hit record. So now we've got the recording. I'll press Command and J to consolidate that, and that will mean that if you look in the file inspector here, it reduces the gain to what it's displayed as, what it was recorded as. If you just double click that, that will normalize any file that you've consolidated, which is really handy. And it also means that now that I've consolidated that, I can access it in the current project under samples, processed, consolidate. You know, I can show that in Finder, show that in my Explorer, and drag that into my personal sample library, which is really handy.